I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London. What a weekend. Barcelona lose. We have a million teams within a single point near the top of Serie A. Arsenal and Chelsea battle to a draw. Bayern win, pulling ahead. But we got to start because after 940 games as a manager, going all the way back to Barcelona B in the Spanish Tercera as it was then, Pep Guardiola has lost 4 games in a row. It's defeat to Manchester City. Defeat to Brighton, 2-1. Coming from behind, Jules, Pep says, well, it's new for me. It's a challenge. I like challenges. Is that the right attitude?
No, it is the right attitude. I don't think he's enjoying this, though. You could see some of his reactions, as we've seen here on the set, thanks to producer Freddie. 4 defeats, which you can explain in a way, although you also do wonder if there's something a bit deeper than injuries, which is a long list of players not fully fit. The accumulation of games with that many players to pick from. You just wonder if there's not something more, maybe a bit of tiredness mentally, physically. After 9 years of Pep, it's a long time. And you can't always keep winning. It's just normal. That's sport.
I think more than one thing can be true. One thing which I think is definitely true is that while we're talking about it because of 4 defeats in a row, there is a randomness to football, which is why we always try to look at performance, not just results. Because it's true that in those 4 games, certainly against Brighton, they could have had a hat trick in the first half. I mean, Haaland alone could have had a hat trick in the first half, and he didn't. Against Sporting, they could have had 3 goals in the first half. I feel like the only game in which they were really bad for the duration was the Bournemouth game, where they lacked intensity and so on. And still, even in that game, they still had that weird chance to win it. Spurs, I'd have to believe you because that was the League Cup, and I didn't pay quite as close attention to that. But so I think to me the message is the broader message is the way the Premier League is right now. Most leagues is the super clubs have so many resources, so many superstars that they can play badly and still win on a regular basis. It just so happens that these last couple games being below par, it didn't work out. And so now we have this big 4 defeats. He's got an international break now to think about it. I want to throw this to something else because I think it's undeniable, and this is where he needs to rely on his managerial chops to turn this around. You don't want a sense of drift to come into your squad. Because let's face it, Chiki Begiristain is going at the end of the season. Pep Guardiola's contract is up at the end of the season. We don't know if he's going to stay, if he's going to go. You've got this whole situation with the 115 charges. Supposedly the hearings are just about over. We'll get a verdict at some point, but who knows? I mean, that is a huge question mark over the club. You got a sense of it, I'd say, over the summer, where we're used to City, always strengthening, reloading, challenging, blah, blah, blah. Who do they add? They had Savinho, a guy from effectively their satellite team, and they had Ilkay Gundogan on a free transfer return. He's 34, and it's just a 1-year deal. So all these things put together, you don't want to get this sense, okay, fine, we've won everything, the cycle's ending. Let's go peacefully. You should rage against the dying of the light.
But that's the risk, though, I think. And maybe it comes subconsciously. Maybe you don't really realize it because it's a long time again and because Pep is so demanding. Those players have won everything. And I'm not saying they're not hungry anymore for more wins. Of course, you always want to win. But I do wonder if there's a point where you just struggle to keep the same level of excellence almost like you have for the last 9 years, really, 8 years.
So I think this is where he has to make sure that what the scenario I described of drift is as far away from the player's mind because they have a ton to play for. They're second in the Premier League. They're 2 points outside the top 8 in the Champions League, and once you get in there, then you're good. And I think when they get to the knockouts, I don't think anybody's going to want to play Manchester City, frankly. So all these things coming together, but there's also a footballing aspect to it. We're going to get to that on the Gab Juls podcast. But we'd be remiss if we didn't praise Brighton a little bit for the comeback.
Yeah. Amazing second half performance. Changes made by Ursula that worked. They were very efficient. Not like the changes that Pep made, albeit without as many options maybe at Ursula. But credit to Brighton. They are just a wonderful team.
How about my man, Carlos Baleba?
Your man.
I called it. The guy's really, really good.
But everybody has said that he's been very good since the start of the season.
Yeah, everybody. I think a lot of people didn't even know who the hell he was. Come on, come on. He's the new Moises Caicedo.
I love the fact that you fell in love with Carlos Baleba, who, by the way, if you'd watched Ligue 1 a bit more last season, he was already very, very good in Ligue 1 last season. So it's just...
I didn't have Ligue 1 Pass last season. I had to rely on whatever crappy broadcaster had to write last year.
2 seasons ago even. But I love the fact that you're highlighting him, not just for this game because he was very good when he came on halftime, but also we mentioned him before after the Chelsea game, albeit Brighton got
I'm not
slaughtered.
claiming I discovered him.
No.
I do think it was weird that they dropped him. I mean...
Yeah, he was a little bit maybe not as good physically than he was earlier in the season because he obviously gives you a lot and he's still a young player. So maybe you have to be careful. I don't know. But he had massive impact when he came on at halftime.
All right, we're going to break down City, but I think just a couple more points I want to make about Brighton. One is that guy JP Van Hecke has got to be one of the most unpleasant people to play against. And I say this in a good way. And I love that confrontation with Haaland, and then at the end with Pep. And suppose afterwards, Pep, Pep said, when they asked Pep about it, he's like, I told him what a strong player he was, blah, blah, blah.
But then Van Hecke was like, I said to Guardiola how great his team was. I wish somebody had told the truth because you can clearly see Guardiola saying, why were you crying? Why you were crying on the floor? So clearly nobody's telling the truth.
Van Hecke should have said, why don't you have any hair?
Yeah, whatever. I don't know, something, but we don't know
they're too nice. Come on. This is Brighton we're talking about. They're too nice. And I have to give a shout out to Danny Welbeck too, because I think we take it for, people say like, well, we should take effort for granted, right? Danny Welbeck is old. Danny Welbeck, I feel like, made his debut in the 90s. I know he probably didn't.
He's 33. So
but it feels like that, right? It feels like a long time since he was the bright young winger. And I'm like, the guy works and works and works.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not, I don't know if the sprints and the running stats break it down. And I know it's corny to talk about older players inspiring. Okay, so I'm being corny now. But the amount of effort he gives you, because I wonder, like, well, they have these other strikers. They have João Pedro, who's obviously come back from injury, obviously helped turn the game.
Really well.
This Ewan Ferguson, I'm assuming at some point is going to be fit, right?
He was on the bench,
but he doesn't play. And yet, so I wonder, what is this continuing with Welbeck? Because Welbeck ultimately is Welbeck, right? But he gives you so many intangibles in terms of leadership. And again, I don't like talking about this, but in his case, it's so obvious.
Yeah, and also he's been in great goal-scoring form, so you can't really drop him after the start of the season that he's had. But I think the changes that Hutzler made, I mean, O'Reilly, Pedro, and Baleba just changed the game and won the game for them. And it's at the same time when Guardiola takes off Savinho, which I don't really understand why. I mean, no, I know why. To put Bernardo Silva on for more control on the game when Savinho has been arguably City's best player in that first half. He was the one creating things, making things happen. Okay, he's not involved on the goal per se, but everything else. And I think when you take him off, that gives more license to attack for Estupiñán, a left back for Brighton to start with. And even probably as a defensive block, you just fear less because Savinho is not there anymore with that pace and with the skills that Bernardo Silva brings something completely different. So I didn't really understand what Pep was trying to do. And certainly he didn't work, especially compared to what Hutzler did that had a massive impact.
All right, more broadly, when we talk about the reasons City are in this situation, right? So we mentioned the drift, the intangible, psychological reasons, uncertainty of the future, blah, blah, blah. When we talk about the actual reasons on the pitch, obviously injuries and absences play a big part of it.
Yeah.
I want to start, though, with the defense because I feel like there's and we can say it's tied to the midfield and whatever, but fundamentally, part of the reason Pep effectively has 4 center backs out there is, 4 center backs plus Rodri, and then the other 5 guys are free to attack. I'm really breaking this down very simply, right? But this is a situation where their first job is to defend, right?
Yeah.
And I think individually, a number of these guys have gone backwards. Not Vardiol necessarily, but obviously Kyle Walker, he's been injured, comes back, did poorly again, I thought. Akanji, Ake's been injured, but when he's played, he's not been good.
No.
And I think, I mean, is it just a group of people that maybe should have been refreshed with one extra guy or whatever? Is it just injuries?
I mean, they've got loads of defenders already, so I'm not sure adding another one was the answer. I think they miss Ruben Diaz. I think they miss most of them being back to their best because they haven't been this season.
They're not on their level.
They've
And it's an
defended so badly. I mean, the 2 goals against Brighton, the first one, Rico Lewis going down onto the floor. I'm not really sure why, which actually I think creates more chaos in that box than anything for his own team and his own teammates. The second goal is just too simple for Joao Pedro, even Welbeck Pedro and O'Reilly then. I just don't understand. And I think Rodri's absence is a problem, and Kovacic will never be able to do defensively what Rodri is able to do. But still, your back four has to defend much better than that. Ake and Akanji were on the bench, apparently not fit enough to even come on. I would not play Simpson Pusey in a game like I just don't think he's ready. Full stop. So really, for Ake and Akanji not to be able to play even a little bit, but still be on the bench, I found that weird. But Lewis at left back is wrong. There's so many things wrong defensively from that City team at the moment.
The Rodri absence, what strikes me about this is, okay, a phenomenal player. But you're still talking about a defensive midfielder. And you're talking about one of the greatest coaches in history, who for most of his career hasn't had Rodri.
Yeah.
When you lose a key player, you come up, you ask yourself, do I have the bodies and the talent to make up for that? And can I come up with a system? And I could argue that over time, not specifically in the Brighton game, but between Lewis, between Kovacic, and Gundogan, you can, who, by the way, were Kovacic, he signed a year ago, Gundogan, obviously he brought back.
Yeah.
If you needed a different profile, a guy who just runs around and wins the ball, you could have got one of those. You have 3 people that between them, maybe you need 2 midfielders, maybe you need a center back stepping up, whatever it is, you can come up with a system. Like, it can't just be Rodri's absence that explains this massive drop in performances. It can't be Rodri's absence that explains the lack of intensity, the impressing that we see, the confusion in ideas. It's not Rodri's absence that makes Foden be so up and down when he's back.
No, true, but he's still he's still a key player, and I think losing him has an impact on you. I wonder if Stones had been fit and Akanji had been fit, well, certainly Akanji more and Stones from the start of the season pretty much. I would have expected Pep to play one of them two with Kovacic instead of Kovacic, and with Gundogan or somebody else to have somebody. I think Kovacic is an amazing ball carrier. I think he brings so much, as we saw in that first half against Brighton, on the assist for Haaland, but on a lot of things that he does, breaking the lines with the ball or with his passing. But he just can't defend. He doesn't have, I think, a football IQ high enough to be able to see the danger and everything and preventing it. Whereas I think Stones and Akanji probably a bit more. I think even Gvardiol. I think Gvardiol could potentially
play in front of the back four.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be. I would love to have seen it, but it won't happen now. Or it might later. But unless the others are fit, Gab, you need Gvardiol in the back four, whether it's left back or centre back anyway. So you can't move him into midfield. So I don't know. Fitness is a problem for them, and it's been since the start of the season, to be honest.
All right, on the fitness point, they played loads of games in past seasons too. There are people who simply aren't contributing either because they've been injured or because it's taken long, right? And I think this also impacts when we talk about the lack of the intensity that we're accustomed to on the press and the way they press, and the fact that they've clearly changed they've had to accommodate their pressing patterns because I think physically they can't do that. When you look at this, I counted this up yesterday, but between Champions League and Premier League, Grealish, De Bruyne, and Foden have all played less than half the games. Have all started, less than half the games, going back to the start of the season.
Yeah.
Bob, who, we can laugh, what a funny name.
Was really good in preseason.
But was good in preseason and could have given you minutes as
definitely.
well. And could have taken some of the pressure off. I think that's the impact, because Bernardo Silva is in his 30s now. And obviously he gave him a rest, brought him off the bench in this game, but he can't keep running forever.
Yeah.
And he's asked to do that in a really demanding position when he plays wide, which is why I think we've seen more of him inside. I think all these things come together and it's really impacting them. And what I wonder though, because this is a sports science squad rotation question, right? United are not lacking, City are not lacking for resources.
No,
City have a manager who rarely uses all his substitutions. Right? We don't see the program subs. It's just his approach. I'm saying it's right or wrong. Other managers have the program subs. He has programmed rotations, but never the program subs, right? So he often doesn't use his 5 substitutes. I think all these things come together, and we see the system where in the final third they're more predictable than they were, and off the ball they're not as effective.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. They miss chances, which really for Erling Haaland, who still has 12 goals already, 12 in 11 or something like that, which is still amazing, but is still missing chances. When you've got Matheus Nunes, who has to play as a left winger when it's clearly not his position, and he can do a good job because he's a good player, but this is not him. But yet, they're only 5 points behind Liverpool, who they will go to on December the 1st. So that's a hell of a game. Obviously, they play Spurs straight after the international break at home, and then Liverpool away. There's the next 2 league games. But they still, despite a patchy start, in the sense that they haven't played great, as we said. Defensively, they're very leaky. They don't take all their chances. They're quite wasteful in front of goals, let's put it that way. With all the injuries and all the players not in top form or not 100%, they're still only 5 points behind Liverpool. Okay, or not be a Liverpool team flying and almost invincible, but they're still not that far. And like you said, the Champions League, they will finish top 8. So I still find they're in a good place. Funnily enough, despite everything we've just said, because at some point the injured players are going to come back. People are going to be fully fit again, 100%, and they're going to go again. And then God knows what can happen.
I think what he needs to do, though, is he cannot those 2 games are huge, right? Obviously Spurs and especially Spurs against whom they do not have a good record, and Liverpool. One guy we haven't mentioned, just to wrap this, is Haaland, because it feels like, maybe because he's larger and blonder and bigger than everybody else, we remember his misses more. So I looked at it, and I think it's 14 goals this season between Champions League and League. His XG is like 14.8 or 14.9. So it's a very, very slight XG underperformance. But this is Erling Haaland, and what we're accustomed to is him overperforming his XG. So you could argue that based on this, maybe it's another 4 or 5 goals that are quote unquote missing. What I wonder a little bit with Haaland is the type of service, as they become more predictable in the final third, as they have been this season, he gets the same type of service again and again. And obviously it suits him and he can finish it. But they do become more one-dimensional. And over time, I think teams can prepare for that a little bit better. I've said from the start, I think you can use Haaland differently. You can get Haaland to do different things rather than just being the attacking terminus. And again, I wonder if this is something that Pep's gonna think about in over this international break. There you have it, Erling Haaland at center back. All right, enough City. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
After losing the Clásico and at home to Milan in the Champions League, Real Madrid roared back with a 4-0 win over Osasuna and a Vinicius hat-trick. But Jules, all is still not well.
Not well, Gabby. One, we'll talk about Militao in the next question, but they've lost players again in Rodrigo and in Militao and in Lucas Vazquez to add more injury woes to this team. Kylian Mbappe is still not at his best. He's still missing chances. He's still not scoring. So there's still a lot of talk about him and question mark over him and his form, but at least they won. They didn't concede a goal against a terrible team. Man. I don't know what happened to Osasuna on this day. They just didn't fancy it.
Bellingham scored his first goal of the season.
That's true.
Who else?
You're right. But yeah, at least you take that win before the international break. That's all they needed, was kind of a big win. So they got that. And Gab just mentioned with Eder Militao's season over now with his ACL, is centre-back the top priority for transfers in January?
I think it pretty much has to be, because when I look at this right now, they have Antonio Rudiger, who's well into his 30s. They have Jesus Vallejo, who I think has played 5 games in the last 4 years, and who I don't think anybody likes, and is just counting down his contract to when he becomes a free agent. They have the kid who came on, who was a kid who was implicated in a very ugly story not that long ago that you can go and Google, and who I don't think they really like.
Yeah.
And that's it. Am I forgetting somebody? Can they bring back? Oh, that's right. They have David Alaba,
Alaba,
who supposedly is back in training. The dude's been out for 11 months. Who knows what condition he's going to be in? Yeah, you have to move for this. I wrote a column arguing. I love the Joshua Kimmich move and see if they can hijack that and whatever, give you cover two positions. But surely that's got to be subordinate to this right now. They still need a ball-playing midfielder. And they need an alternative to Lucas Vazquez at right back. They ended the game with Fede Valverde right back. Yeah. I mean, come on.
I know.
Liverpool beat Aston Villa 2-0 to go 5 points clear, and it's now 12 wins and 1 draw in their last 13. Jules, we're quickly becoming slaughterholics here, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Indeed. Well done to him.
But how annoyed will Unai Emery be at conceding 2 goals from attacking corners?
And it's not even if this was something new that Liverpool were doing this season under Slot. This is something they've been doing for years, and the club, those very, very quick transition. Alisson, who catches the ball on the corner, and then Diaz and Salah, or whoever plays.
It's not right. People have been doing this since the beginning of time.
Yeah, no,
but not invented this.
Not as efficient, maybe not as efficiently as Liverpool. But so it looked like Villa were not prepared for it. And that's what I don't understand.
How can you not be prepared, especially when you're Unai Emery?
That's what really was beyond me watching that game. They almost could have had a third one, maybe even fourth goal on quick transition like that after Villa had a wide free kick or corner. It's just I don't know. Unless the players didn't do something that Unai told them, but they looked really unprepared for it.
So you know how when Unai Emery looks like a little baby vampire and gets all angry? I can imagine him being that, because there's no way that he didn't prepare his team for this. Something must have gone wrong. I thought Villa actually played well, but to me, this speaks to Liverpool's toughness, resilience, work ethic. That run at the end, whoever it is that stops Philogene, I think at the end it's Luis Diaz. Like you can't bottle that. I mean. I think Liverpool can continue to get better. I think they can improve the chemistry up front. I don't think we've seen the best of Alexis McAllister yet this season. The one concern is Ryan Gravenberch. I think he's played just about every minute of every game this season. And he's been so good in a new position for him. Yeah. What is the plan B if he breaks down or if he needs a rest? But otherwise, they're in great shape.
Yeah. Jamal Musiala scored the only goal as Bayern win away to St. Pauli. 5 points clear at the top now for our boy Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, and people said, oh, look, this is an indifferent victory and Bayern didn't, they didn't dominate. They didn't need to dominate because St. Pauli, I thought, did very little other than defend in this game. Musiala, I mean, his goal is just an absolute peach of a goal. Yeah. He could have had another one. Harry Kane also missed a really good chance. I'm not concerned with that. I'm more concerned with Leroy Sané. Dude, you're trying to get a new contract. Presumably, you're trying to impress prospective suitors. If you watch the highlights, twice you see him taking shots with XGs of 0.01
he does that often, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm like, what you're good at is running at people and beating them off the dribble, not at shooting from distance in those conditions. All right, Jules, we're not done because we have more quick hits.
Yes.
Chelsea and Arsenal share the spoils at Stamford Bridge. Arteta seemed far more annoyed than Maresca with the result. Maybe because of that last-minute chance that Trossard screwed up for Kai Havertz, the best on earth.
Yeah, maybe. Although I think there would have been an offside there anyway.
I'm not sure. I am not. I know that it was flagged, but
we'll have to see. We'll have to see it again. Arteta's saying that he felt his team deserved to win it, which, I don't know. I think maybe they just edged it a little bit, although the XG goes for Chelsea too, even if Arsenal had more big chances created. So maybe it's a fair result in the end. I think the two teams, there was not much between the two. I like a lot of what Chelsea did on that pitch and in that game. And I like a lot that Odegaard is back for Arsenal because you see how much he changes everything. Even when Saka is not good, even when Havertz is not really in it. So I thought that was a good game. I don't know, a lot of people didn't really like it. I enjoyed it.
I thought it had its moments. Well, I think it wasn't in terms of great quality entertainment. Palmer, quiet. Nico Jackson, quiet.
Yeah.
Odegaard, not quiet, but Bukayo Saka, quiet. Yeah. I think, again, by his standards. But can I just bring you back to Neto against Ben White? This is what I don't understand. Neto is an incredibly one-footed player,
Yeah.
right? He can play on both sides, but he's very, very different. How does he make White dance like a puppet on a string before? Dude, do you not prepare? Do you know this guy will not cross the ball with his right foot? Or if he does, the ball's going to go, he's going to slice it off somewhere. He's just playing onto his weaker foot. It's not, I don't understand how this stuff happens.
Yeah, I know. And also the 2 goals were so poor goals to concede from both of them. The one where Colwill covers Martinelli and the one that Neto scores should never find that much space where he does. So I think quite frustrating for the 2 managers as well. Inter Napoli also finishes 1-1, Gabi, with Hakan Çalhanoğlu missing a really not a rare penalty. For the first time ever for Inter, missing a penalty after 19 straight successful attempts. Was a fair result for you? And did you share Antonio Conte's fury at the end?
Yeah, so first of all, on Antonio Conte's fury, it comes down to the penalty that was awarded to Inter, and there is contact. They ended up being completely irrelevant, right? So I feel this is honest from Conte. So he didn't, he's not using it as an excuse. There was contact, but I think it was what you call a bit of a ticky-tacky penalty, and he's annoyed that it didn't go to VAR. There is guidance in most nations that have VAR that the VAR can judge. They can't judge the impact or the severity of a contact. They can just judge whether there is a contact.
Right, yeah.
Here, the contact is very, very slight. I would not have given that penalty.
It's so soft.
Equally, the argument is the guy sees it the referee sees it in real time. The contact is there. He's the guy who's there to judge the contact. Yeah. Watching it in slow motion can make the contact seem more or less. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those. Like, people are like, more VAR, less VAR, whatever. I think it was a fair result. I think Inter did not take their chances.
Yeah.
And I think Napoli focused on defending, which is the right thing to do away from home. Barcelona fall away to Real Sociedad 1-0, but there's a lot of anger at another upside. This is the Robert Lewandowski offside, which machines made it. So you have to be angry at AI and the robots and Skynet becoming self-aware here.
Well, if you haven't seen it,
it's incredible.
The image of first of all, if there is offside, it's a tiny one. I get on Lewandowski, but then it feels like the foot where they draw the line is, we're not really sure whose foot it is, but it looks like a really big foot if it's Lewandowski.
Or maybe he's wearing clown shoes.
So maybe they picked the wrong boot. I mean, I don't know what happened, but Barcelona players and Nancy Flick really unhappy with the decision because it looks really dodgy.
They can be unhappy. They should also be unhappy with their performance.
0 shot on target for the first time in 10 years for Barcelona.
Real Sociedad played really, really well. Take Kubo, I thought had a huge match, and they dominated the XG as well.
And no Lamine Yamal, who was injured, and when he's not there, you see the difference, obviously.
Dude needs a rest.
Yeah. Rafael Leao scores 2 goals, and Francesco Camarda makes his first start at 16 years old for Milan, but they still held 3-3 away at Cagliari.
Yeah, Fonseca's like one of those guys playing whack-a-mole. He solves one problem. Finally, look, Rafael Leao is happy, and he's playing great, and he scores 2 goals. Everybody feel good. We beat Madrid at the Bernabeu. But now he has another problem, which is defensively all over the shop. There's no way they could have conceded. They should have conceded this. Yusuf Fofana, again, who I think has actually been pretty good otherwise.
Terrible mistake.
Gives the ball away. Terrible mistake. You can't do that in that position. And now it's 2 weeks of inquest on this nonsense. He can't catch a break. Theo Hernandez also bad. Ruud van Nistelrooy ends his caretaker stint at United with a 3-0 victory over Leicester City as Bruno Fernandes scores his first league goal from open play this season. And Alejandro Garnacho decides not to celebrate, Jules.
Not to celebrate, and Bruno Fernandes explained why. He said, well, he felt like he's lost some faith from the fans. They were not happy with him, so he decided not to celebrate. And I think Bruno said it really well. He said, listen, there will always be people who moan and don't like what you do sometimes, but there's a lot of people, more people, who actually like you and like what you do and always support you even when you don't have a good game. And nobody can have great games all the time. Not even Messi and Cristiano. So it was a lovely goal by Garnacho, set up because it's the last pass before the strike by Bruno. Then Bruno scored. He's also involved in the second goal. So probably perfect from the club's captain before the arrival of Amorim, and big win. And Van Nistelrooy did well, and I was happy for him because I think he loves the club. Really, you can see. You see how every time he celebrates. Yes, that was lovely. So well done, Van Nistelrooy, for that little 4-game stint.
Love for Diallo for the back heel.
Yeah. If you discount the cup win against Elversborg, which, as Gab keeps reminding us, should not should not be really taken in consideration because it's not a real football team, but a team full of elves. It's 5 games without a victory now for Bayer Leverkusen, who are held at bottom of the table Bochum on Saturday.
This was really bad. Really bad. Lukas Radetzky coming out afterwards and saying this is incredible. This is unacceptable. This isn't even one of those where like the XG were, fully dominating by Bayer Leverkusen. This was bad. This was actually turned out to be really close. They can't close games out.
It's really strange. What happened to them?
This is the test for Xabi Alonso now. How do you respond to this? He hasn't become a bad coach all of a sudden, but often you learn more about people in adversity, and this is a big period of adversity. Paris Saint-Germain stomp all over Angers 4-2.
Come on.
Jules, was it necessary to give up 2 goals in injury time?
So I will give you the same answer that Luis Enrique gave the one journalist who asked him that question. Have you ever played football?
Yes.
Have you ever played football at a good level?
Not to your level, Luis Enrique.
Well, Luis Enrique, very condescending. I'm not saying it was right to talk like that to the guy who asked the questions. Basically saying the game was over at halftime when PSG were 4-0 up. And it doesn't matter, the late 2 goals, 92nd and 98th minute or whatever it was. And we should not be talking about it, basically, because we should talk about everything
not
else.
A tiebreaker in France, yeah?
Well, we should talk about everything else that was positive from the team, which PSG did really well in that first half. Barcola, Mayulu.
Speedy Barcola, the top scorer in Ligue 1.
Yeah, 2 goals, but I don't care. I want him to do it in the Champions League, Gab, not so much in the league anymore. Juventus win the derby against Torino 2-0, Gab. They look good. And Timothy Weah looked good as well.
Timothy Weah looked very good. Federico Conceição coming on.
Yeah, Francesco even.
Francisco Conceição even looked good. Cambiaso looks good.
Yeah.
He's like an Italian Dani Alves. Vlahovic looked less good, but it doesn't matter because this team is less Vlahovic dependent than they were before. I love the fact that with Thiago Motta, there's so many different points of attack. Teun Koopmeiners, I think, again, he can be so important to this team. He's getting stronger. Be afraid. Be very afraid. I think they're in a really, really good place.
Yeah, they
even
are.
without Bremer at the back. And look, I know they've said they're going to be inconsistent all season. They'll probably lose after the break 4-0 to somebody and be terrible. That's the nature of the young team, but I really think they are going in the right direction. Tottenham Hotspur lose at home to Ipswich Town, who record their first victory of the season, Jules. Not surprising.
Nope.
Ange Postecoglou, not happy, primarily with himself.
Yeah, said it's on me. It's down to me. I can't get the players to put the right performance and be at the right level. I think it's on you, Ange, for not teaching them how to defend better, because I just cannot believe every time, Gab, we're here and we say until this team is more balanced, until it's not just about attacking all the time, because the way they were opened up by Ipswich in the first half hour of the game is ridiculous.
Well, he put Papsar in midfield. That should have helped. No?
Well, exactly. It's an embarrassment, really, and they have to sort this out. Emre Can gets sent off inside half an hour, and Borussia Dortmund lose at Mainz 3-1, Gab. They have a lot of injuries, but this was bad.
This is really bad. And look, Emre Can, obviously, he deserves a lot of grief. Totally needless challenge to make. You're the captain. You already have to play as an emergency center back, and now you get your son sent off. But I tell you what, he's not the only one, because this guy goes off. Look, Zule and Valdemar Anton are out. But what do you do? Oh, let's put Felix Nemecha at center back, who has never played there before in his life, instead of trusting one of the kids. And then let's sit back and wait for Mainz to beat us. Come on, that's not the way to play. Now, this was way back on Friday, but we have to talk about Marseille, because I think this is incredible what's going on.
Yeah.
So they lose a game at home to Auxerre, 3-1. However, in the background, you have the Zerbi saying that he's ready to leave, he's not there for money, blah, blah, blah. And also, keep reporting that earlier in the season, he showed his players, like in a video session, a copy of the offer that he received to manage Manchester United, and which he turned down to be there with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's true or not. I hadn't heard that story before, reading about
but
it.
It's in L'Equipe, so...
Yeah. But he was very upset on Friday night. And clearly the away form is great. And the home form, where teams come and park the bus, let's be honest, like we saw on Friday night, they really struggle and they have no rhythm. They have just nothing's happening, and which is very disappointing. I think from a team like that, with the players that they have and the manager like him, because you would think that he's that good that he could find solutions even against a low compact block, but he hasn't. So he said, if the problem is me, because I can't make my team play at home like like as good as we play away, then I'm happy to leave, take no money. I've told that to the players and to the bosses. I don't know, it was really strange. It felt like I don't know. But Marseille can have this impact on you. You know, it's a mad city.
I'll say this, Roberto, if you're watching, two things. One is, if the story reported in L'Equipe is not true, you must sue, because other clubs, they're going to look very negatively against you if they see that you're sharing confidential documents, because that's what it is. It's a confidential document. So if the story's inaccurate, you need to get the truth out there about what really happened. If you did it, do not do it again. It's one thing to say, oh, I could have gone to Manchester United, I could have gone to Real Madrid and whatever, and then it's up to the players if they believe you, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot do that with a confidential document. Secondly, this thing of like, if I'm not wanted here, I'm just going to go. I'm not going to take any money. Dude, you seem unhinged when you do that. Clubs do not want people like that. You're potentially, you're about to make the leap. You can make the leap. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you disagree. You can make a leap to a really, really massive club, right? You're in that position.
Yeah.
If you already fell out with Brighton, which is not a good look, by the way, because it's difficult to fall out with Brighton because they're very nice guys. If you fall out here too, you're not going to control the narrative anymore. And it's going to be that much harder for you to get where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely. More madness at Roma. They lost at home to Bologna 3-2, and Ivan Juric gets sacked after just 53 days in charge. When they return after the break, they will have their third manager of the season, and we're only in November. What's going on with the Friedkins, Gab, and who could come in?
I have no idea what's going on with the Friedkins. I know they're probably flying around on some other planes, thinking about what they're going to do. Maybe they're laying plans for Everton. Juric, not good. This game, not good. You know, when Stefan El Shaarawy scores 2 goals for you, you know sort of the broader context of the team. There's something not right.
Definitely. I thought the same.
But they said, "Oh, we've been looking for the new, the manager search has begun some time ago. So presumably this means that they would have sacked poor Juric even if he'd won."
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. The names that are out there, and by the way, our friend Ghisolfi.
He spoke for the first time to the zone after the game. Right?
Yes,
You were happy.
via translator.
Yeah.
Dude, you have an Italian last name. You've been in Rome for 6 months, and you speak like this. You don't need a translator to say, "I am sorry. We are all sorry to the fans. Thank you, Juric." Like seriously, you could have done the whole like Walter Mazzarri thing and read it off a piece of paper, right? He needs to either be more present or he needs to disappear before the Friedkins go and fire him. Although I think the reason he can't be fired is there's no CEO to fire him because they haven't filled that position. Talk about mass sense of drift, and it gets even better because Sky Italia reporting last night that the Friedkins love their outside consultants, right? They used one Vertexo to hire people in the past, and they reported, this story does not, I have to come out and say this, like, this story sounds fishy to me, but it was reported by Sky Italia, and they're very well connected, that they have enlisted the help of CAA in London on their manager search, and CAA recommended 2 names. One is Frank Lampard Jr., so they're competing with Coventry for that job.
Yeah.
The other one is Edin Terzic. And again, bringing these people in halfway through the season. Other names in the mix, Rudy Garcia, who of course has been there before. Yeah. Why not? Drop the very stable Rudy Garcia in here when, by the way, the first game after the break is against Napoli.
Yeah. Roberto Mancini, you like that?
Roberto Mancini
Lazio
with his
legend.
Lazio past and his tax issues, frankly. Daniele De Rossi with Claudio Ranieri as sort of like his babysitter.
Imagine.
I don't think De Rossi would come back. I think that if I were De Rossi, I would only come back. I'll come back if you guys leave.
Yeah.
I think those would be the only circumstances. It's absolute chaos. Doesn't need to be straight now. A lot of Everton fans on social media be like, "Are the Friedkins going to be like this?" Blah blah blah. I don't think these are bad people. I think these are people who have made a string of really, really bad decisions. And you know the broadest, simplest one for me to understand, and why, like, I think a football head or even just a basic fan head needs to be in the room. Jose Mourinho, Daniele De Rossi, Ivan Juric. I think you struggle to think of 3 managers who are so different, one from the other, in terms of playing style, in terms of philosophy. They're completely different. So you go from one to the other to the other. Come on.
Yeah.
Julien Laurens scores the only goal as Atletico Madrid win at Mallorca. Jules, another nice performance from the coach's kid, Giuliano Simeone.
Yeah, with an assist this time. Remember, he scored the winner last weekend. This time he had a good assist for Julian Alvarez. Not great from Atletico, let's be honest again.
Sorry, when is it great from Atletico?
I know, true.
Not often.
But they're still third in the table, and they're not doing too bad on the back of their win in Paris too in the Champions League in midweek. But the one probably bright light at the moment, apart from the fact that Alvarez is finding some form now and scoring, is clearly Giuliano Simeone. So let's see if he can keep on like this after the international break. Leipzig are held at home by Borussia Mönchengladbach. Gab, opportunity missed?
The opportunity missed. They'd be 2 points behind Bayern, 3 points behind Bayern if they'd won. But they were really, really bad in this game. They honestly, conceding chances time and again in the first half. I know Xavi Simons isn't there. He mixed it up. He had Sesko on the bench. He played Poulsen up front. Again, not much change. I mean, you can only ask so much of Poulsen. They could have easily lost this game. And their defending is just terrible.
Yeah.
And I think this is another one of those situations where you take a long, hard look at Marco Rose and you ask yourself, we're Red Bull, the smartest guys in the room. Are you sure you want to continue down this road?
I agree.
Wonder if Jurgen Klopp gets involved. I mean, not the coach, obviously. I hope not. Or maybe Jurgen Klopp will wake up one day and say, my God, what have I done?
He starts
and come back into the light.
He starts on January the 1st, so there's not much he can do right now, can he?
Yeah, he can go rip up the contract and come back into the light. Leave the dark princes
side
of darkness. Come on, man. These demonic influences on football. Nottingham Forest is at home to Newcastle United 3-1. Jules, they're still third, but for how much longer?
It's a good question, Gab. They go to Arsenal after the international break, the first game. Despite taking the lead and being 1-0 up at half-time against Newcastle on Sunday, they were destroyed in that second half. Newcastle were good. Bruno Guimaraes was outstanding. Isak, Joel Linton, all of them. And when Newcastle stars play like that with that intensity and that control, then I don't think there's much Nottingham Forest could have done differently anyway to try to keep that game or even get a point. So this one, you move on, it will happen. They were never going to finish third anyway. We said that at the start, at the end of the season. There's still a lot of good things that they do, and they're still good, but not good enough just yet on Sunday to be able to compete with a really good Newcastle team, I thought.
If only Marinakis had been there instead of being suspended.
Yeah.
He could have.
How many more games? 2? 3?
2 or 3? I don't know. I imagine him somewhere spitting on the ground.
Yeah, or in his handkerchief, as you said.
Or in his handkerchief. Yeah.
Moise Kean buys a hat-trick as Fiorentina beat Verona 3-1 to move into second place. What's going on, Gab? He's got 11 goals already in all competition this season.
Yeah, this is already the most goals, most league goals. He has 8 league goals. It's the most league goals that he has scored in a season his entire career, except for one. When he was at Paris Saint-Germain, obviously. But look, I'm really happy for him. You know, all this time at Juve, at Everton, you know, this is a guy who made his debut very young. They expected you to be this, expected you to be that. I think he made some bad decisions over the years. I think he'd be the first to admit it. Now he's found some stability. He plays from a very attacking side with Palladino. He's got decent players around him who play, you know, sort of front foot forward. I'm happy. Look, it's weird. Italy has gone for so long with just terrible center forwards. And hey, look, now we have 2 in Ken and Retegui who are okay-ish.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Maybe even Scamacca if he's ever fit again.
Even.
It's a wild one between Stuttgart and Eintracht Frankfurt. The visitors go 3-0 up as your boy Omar Marmoush scores a worldie. And the fight back from Stuttgart falls short.
Yeah, they lose 3-2. It was great. One of the games of the weekend for me, Gab, without that. But we knew because the two teams that play and attack a lot, even if they have different styles, is there a better front two right now in Europe than Ekitike and Marmoush together? There might be, but they're not far up there.
Lautaro and Thuram.
Well, in numbers, I don't think
Mbappe and Vinicius.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't take
Salah
Mbappe.
and Diaz, maybe.
Yeah, you would have taken Mbappe and Vinicius over Marmoush and Ekitike.
In terms of number, Ekitike and Marmoush are just amazing this season. And they were, again, in this game. They were unplayable at times. Marmoush, we talk about Moise Kean. I'm not sure what's happening to Omar Marmoush either this season, but incredible form. So well done to Frankfurt and for Stuttgart.
And missed a penalty too, which I think could have given them a different control of the game.
That's very true. Lazio and Atalanta also win against Monza and Udinese respectively, and they're also second in the very tight top of the table in Serie A. Gab, 5 teams separated by a single point.
That's right. Lazio, Atalanta, Fiorentina and Inter just 1 point behind Napoli. Juve 2 points behind Napoli, just behind them. It's fun. I mean, Lazio have been exceptional. They've been exceptional in Europe all year. Some of these guys that they've added, like Ja and Noslin, have shown that, hey, we belong here. Baroni's doing a phenomenal job. Atalanta, I thought, were very lucky against Udinese. Controversial penalty call that Udinese didn't get, but we know Atalanta are really good. So I think this promises to be a very exciting race, and we're just hopefully going to go all down to the wire. Monaco come from behind to beat Strasbourg 3-1 with 3 goals in the last 11 minutes. Jules, they scored late, but this is actually pretty one-sided.
Yeah, especially the second half. But to be fair to Liam Rosignol and Strasbourg, they were very good in that first half. They are just so nice to watch with the intensity that they have, but they're a young team. They can't keep it up for 90 minutes. They are a bit naive as well at times. And Monaco keep knocking at the door. Akliouche and Ben Seguir, I think, were outstanding again. Not so much Brilliant Bolo, who missed a massive chance, then came off. And Ileni Kena came on and changed the game as well. And those 3 youngsters there made the difference. Ben Seguir with 2 goals. Akliouche, very key again. And Adi Hutter, I think, quite relieved because we've seen them being stuck in the league like that against Nice, against Angers last weekend. And this time, it actually went their way. So well done.
Yeah, the live score site I look at said I think they had like 3.9 XG.
Yeah, it was really high. Rúben Amorim can't take over straight away at Manchester United, Gab, because he's waiting for his work permit. Should fans be concerned? What's going on?
I am not an immigration lawyer. I'm 100% certain he will get his work permit. It's probably bureaucrats pushing papers. I don't think this is a thing. I also kind of feel that, I don't know, maybe I'm being stupid here. Lawyers, I'm sure you can correct me. So like, no, that would be fraud. If he gets his work permit in a month, and by the way, I think it's going to be a couple of days, if not hours. He's not actually playing. He's a coach.
Yeah.
Surely he can come in and be like, no, I'm just here at Carrington on holiday. Surely he can wander around. Surely he can give instructions. Oh, look, in my free time, I like to go and tell Johnny Evans and Matthijs de Ligt, what positions they should take up defensively. And look, I've been invited to sit on the bench. No, actually, that's probably something he legally can't do.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like,
it's
not a non-story.
Yeah, I guess so.
He probably can't get paid, but, they can make up for it later. It's time! It's Texter time! Alexandre Lacazette scores the only goal as John Texter sees his boys win the derby against hated Saint-Etienne, Jules.
Incredible scenes if you have not seen them at the Groupama Stadium. Packed 58,000, the highest attendance ever for a derby. No away fans, as we know in France, they can't travel in all those massive games, but great
Which
scenes.
is a shame because it's not far from Saint-Etienne to Lyon.
It's
That's
not
why
far
it's their own derby. They could travel by boat,
they
right?
could, I guess, yeah. But like I said, the star, obviously for him, Lyon born and bred, it was very special. It was his first derby at the Groupama Stadium, very likely his last because he's out of contract in the summer and won't stick around.
JT won't ask him to stick around?
I think he might, but I think he was close to leaving last summer and I think he will go this summer. But good to see him scoring Ryan Cherki with some incredible skills. Again, through the whole game, he was amazing. And Saint-Etienne, even if they had the chances and maybe on another day could have got a point, Lyon are just a better team. They have a better coach. They have a better squad, better players. So just the logic was followed. But I can't wait for the reverse fixture now in Saint-Etienne where the atmosphere would be great again. And I think Saint-Etienne could cause them more problems.
They've had a rough ride this season since coming up. I mean, are they going to...
Yeah.
Are they going to touch and go?
Tough. Yeah, touch and go, I think. Arsenal will have to move their Women's Champions League fixture against Bayern away from the Emirates after they were drawn at home to Crystal Palace in the League Cup Gap on the same day, December 18th. There's quite a lot of fans angry about this.
Yeah, and I think this is a situation where you're kind of painted into a box because of commitments you make by decisions beyond your control. So Arsenal made a commitment to play games at the Emirates so that they could have bigger so they could have bigger crowds, get more people, even like have people like, think last minute. Look, let's face it, they're not going to necessarily sell out Women's Champions League group stage games at the Emirates, but even if on the day you decide you want to go, then you still have that option.
Yeah.
And that's why they're playing there, and they believe it's part of a big push for the women for the women's game. Obviously, they knew that when the draw for the Champions League came out and they were drawn at home to Bayern, they knew that there was a risk that if they advanced in the League Cup rather than tanking, there was a risk that they could get drawn at home on the same day. And the issue here is that I think Crystal Palace plays on the 15th, so
Sunday, they want to play Sunday, Tuesday.
Yeah, they can't play Sunday, Tuesday, which is understandable, and also for Palace, this is a big competition. This is like Palace's Champions League. They can't move it, I think, to the 19th because Spurs are playing at home,
and both can't play
that
at
day,
home.
and you can't. And, God has decreed that Spurs and Arsenal can't play at home. No, not God, the police. Sorry. So I understand this. They can't move the date because, rightly, all Champions League games, because it's a final group stage game, they'll have to be played at the same time. I don't know how you get out of it. What I would like to see, there's some suggestion that they're going to play in a smaller stadium with a capacity of 4,000, and they've already sold 7,500 tickets for this, which means they would have to reimburse people. I don't know if that's going to happen. I would like to say, the one thing London's not missing, it's football grounds. I'm wondering if you sold 7,500 tickets, maybe as a gesture, just throwing this out there, why not say, hey, why don't we go play? Maybe we can play QPR if they're not using their stadium. Maybe we can go play at Fulham. I don't know who's in the League Cup, who's around. But there's no shortage of stadiums here. And so you still want to give that message that it's a big deal, right? But asking the men's team to move, which is what some people have suggested, that's even more of a logistical nightmare, frankly.
Yeah.
And also, let's face it, and I hate to bring it down to money, would deprive Arsenal of some of the income that goes to fund the women's team. That's just the reality and economics of where we are right now. Guess who's back? Back again. That's right. Jorge Sampaoli, El Sampa.
He's back in Rennes, Gabi. He's replacing Julien Stéphan. Rennes, who are in terrible form, 14th or 13th in the table. They lost again. They got battered at home by Toulouse. This weekend, he was watching from the stands. There's a lot of work to be done. He just needs to wake up. Well, he's a good squad, to be fair, but just not working out at the moment for them. So I think a lot of people in France are very excited to have Sampaoli back with all his intensity and everything that comes with him. He looks even more badass than ever. I don't know if you've seen him over the weekend.
I think he's been lifting.
Yeah.
I think he's got that like sort of middle-aged man like gym rage.
Yeah. You're right. So this should be fun. Here in the United Kingdom, Gab, poppies are worn this time of year to remember
members of the military.
Yeah, in the military who lost their lives in active service from the beginning of World War I to the present day. And football clubs wear poppies embroidered in their shirts. But the Wrexham captain, James McLean, has come under fire again for refusing to wear one.
Yeah, he has a long history of refusing to wear it. He's from Northern Ireland, or he would say he's from Ireland. I don't know, but he's from the town of Derry, which if you've watched the excellent documentary Derry Girls, no, I'm just kidding. It's a sitcom, but it actually, in a pretty intelligent way, explains some of the divisions of the conflict. He knows he doesn't do it out of conscience because he knows people, like some people are on the other side of these conflicts, and he refuses to do it. So I don't think that's the story. I think there's a broader issue. And I've always maintained this, is when you're stripped of the choice, then the choice to wear it becomes meaningless. If everybody has to wear it because it's embroidered on the shirt, personally, I don't think it should be embroidered on the shirt. I think players who want to wear it should be encouraged to wear it. Yeah. If you don't want to wear it, that's fine. You respect the choice. But it seems to be, and unfortunately, it becomes a big political football every year. He's obviously used to it because he's been taking stick from people for 15 years.
Yeah, he doesn't mind.
No, I guess the difference here is that because it's Wrexham, it'll probably turn up on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Or FX if you're in the other market.
Yeah.
France are set to face Israel in the Nations League. Jules, Kylian Mbappe won't be there. Paris is under high alert after the violence in Amsterdam last week.
Yeah, it's Thursday night at the Stade de France in the Nations League, as you say, Gabi. 4,000 policemen, members of the army will be there to make sure that it's extra secure and that nothing happens, not just around the stadium and the game before and after, but also within Paris, where Israeli fans, whether they live in Paris or are in France or travel to come to the game, are also safe. There will be an extra 1,600 stewards and security members. President Macron will be there in the stadium. Not that it changes anything, but just to show how important this is, I think. And France, I think, want Israeli fans to feel safe there. So let's hope everything goes well.
Yeah, and obviously there's horrible scenes in Amsterdam last week.
Thursday night, yeah.
And I think very much politicized by both sides. You know, it's almost like two different things happen depending who you read. Hard to sift through the truth. I hope this doesn't happen. I think there's a very different dynamic when national team fans travel than when ultras travel.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's something that needs to be recognized. And I think it's good that there's so much attention being paid to this ahead of time, and they have experience there from the Olympics in terms of security and whatever else. And I think also they learned some lessons from the Champions League final.
Yeah, sure. According to today's L'Equipe, Christophe Nkunku is thinking about leaving Chelsea, and he's a target for Rúben Amorim at Manchester United. Does that make sense to you?
So first of all, I think this has legs, the story, in the sense that if it's in L'Equipe and Nkunku's French, I'm assuming, this isn't born out of thin air.
No.
I saw Nkunku come on for 2 minutes last night. The guy's totally fit now.
Yeah.
I think he needs more playing time. I think he deserves more playing time.
He won't get any at Chelsea. Unless there's an injury to Nico Jackson or Cole Palmer, he won't get it.
And if there's an injury to Nico Jackson, then he's going to be asked to play a position, which I think he's unsuited to doing.
Yeah,
right?
true.
Put. So I could understand him wanting to move on. I think he's got 3 years left after this one. Or is it 2?
No, 3, I think.
So it's and he'll be on decent wages as well because he came before they started counting pennies at Chelsea. It's a tough one. I think he would be a tremendous fit actually for Rúben Amorim's style of play. If Amorim goes back to that 3-4 or continues with sort of the 3-4-2-1.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, imagine him. And Bruno may be slightly less suited, but whatever, it is what it is. He's done a good job for Sporting in the past.
Yeah.
Those two guys behind the striker, I mean, that's very impressive. So I don't know. I mean, from Chelsea's perspective, I think you could get a decent fee for him. You've amortized 2 years of the fee. I think, anything over 50, 55, 60 million, I think
They bought him for 60, yeah, so...
Yeah, and if he had a 6-year deal, then what, 3 of that or half of that is gone now, something like that. I mean, I just want to see him play because he's a good player. But I'm not blaming Maresca for not putting him on the bench because his profile is such that it doesn't really fit unless you drop Cole Palmer. And if you do that, you have to have your head examined. Legendary Algerian footballer Rachid Mekhloufi passed away at the age of 88. Jules, we have to tell the story because he wasn't just a football star. He became a political symbol for independence and anti-colonialism and whatnot. Yeah, that's right. I mean, he was a star at Saint-Etienne, especially, where he was an outstanding attacking player in what was a great team already. To be fair, them and Reims were the best teams in France at the time. And then you're right. He obviously came from Algeria to France with two countries very much linked with each other at the time. Certainly, Algeria was still part of France. And then when they moved for their own independence at the start of the 60s, then he felt very strongly about going back home to try to fight for independence against the French army, which I think was a very strong statement from him to start with. And then, as we know, very traumatic years for a lot of Algerian people to start with, but also French people, because the two countries were so linked with each other. And I think that destroyed a lot of families. Things were never really the same after that for nobody, really, including for Rachid. So he was really, really loved back home in France and in Algeria for everything he did on the pitch and off the pitch. Yeah, had a long and successful career as a coach after that too. So much of the big Messi conspiracy. Bartosz Slick scores the winner for Atlanta United. They win the tiebreaker against Inter Miami 3-2 and knock them out of the playoff in the first round. How about a twist in the tail, right? Maybe Uncle Johnny was right in deciding that the winners of the Supporters Shield should be going to the Club World Cup, right? This is incredible because this was in Miami. They play home, they play away, and then this is the tie-breaking. Some people like this formula, some people don't. I think it's actually pretty good. I think it's great. If you have the time in the calendar to do it, which obviously MLS does. This was quite a game. Bradley Guzan. Yeah. Remember him? Yeah, odd-looking character. What a game, though. What a game he had. Made some incredible saves. We saw some incredible stuff in this game. Guzan as well getting into it with Luis Suarez.
Yeah, after Messi
You have to
scored.
watch the headlines because Guzan somehow gets caught in his own net.
He gets pushed by Suarez for
But then
keeping
he
the ball
can't
after
get
the
out
goal.
of the net.
Yeah.
He looks like a
He's
big fly,
yeah,
a
yeah.
big bald fly that gets stuck in a spider
Or
web. I
fish
don't know.
that you get in your net.
Yes, that's true. But what a game! What a game
Incredible.
he had. Lionel Messi scoring a rare header with some of the worst
Really
defending
nice one as well.
you'll ever see as well. Yeah, they're out. It's over, man. He can
Yeah.
now concentrate on Argentina. And I don't know.
Can they go to the Club World Cup?
Of course, they won
Yeah.
the Supporters' Shield.
Okay, that's enough to get you to the Club World Cup.
I think they're there as not necessarily as continental winners, but as representatives of the host nation, which is the United States.
Ah, that's nice.
So there you
Okay,
go. There's
sweet.
many ways into it.
Sweet.
Jules, this brings us to an end, but
Yeah.
it's the most wonderful time of the season. That's right. Another international break coming up. No games between now and Thursday, which means a lot of Amorim speculation. No, I'm kidding. There's a ton of stuff going on. So until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.